Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and in this video I want to show you how Gilgamesh teams have changed a bit since our first data collection. If anybody remembers, I predicted that the Summer Glaciella, One Wing Sephiroth, and Gilgamesh team was going to be really good, and it was also my favorite out of that data. Well, the internet heard me and other content creators say this and took this to the first most used team. And for the first time since I've started doing these analysis, the usage lines up with maximum utility. Maximum usage, maximum utility. Number one. Great job for this team. Averaging about 4.86 stars on offense and 2.64 defense. This is quite high, but not the highest we're going to see in this data set. So let's first look at key partners and then our key teams as well. These are teams I recommend you use and how I recommend you use them. So key partners, Summer Glaciella, One Wing Sephiroth. I mean, you get it, right? Okay, either of these work well with him as well on other teams too. Then, dropping down, we have a couple of ice units, Howlet the Heaven's Blade actually, and he's getting an upgrade that's really nice for him in some ways. The fact that he is still performing well, at least on defense, I mean just like insanely well on defense specifically. I think this team also had the worst offensive score by a pretty wide margin. If it weren't for that, its defense probably would have put it in number one, and that is... I mean, that's Summer Glaciella and Howlet, so it's not entirely Howlet, but like it is definitely a spike. Then we also have Strategist, although it fits in on a lot of good teams for him, so does Ashen Mont. Those two make a good combination with him. And then finally A2, Luciel, and June the Spring Celestial all seem to work with him alright, but I don't think any of these are ideal. I did like the last time I removed some of my lowest performing teams. I actually had to add some of them back in because they did a little bit better moving forward than I had expected them to. But I only added in 2 new teams with Luciel, and they aren't the best. However, on offense, number 1 is obviously, nope, not what you expected, is it? It's Strategist Oldoa and One Wing Sephiroth, surprisingly. Then we get Ashen Mont and Luciel. Wait, that's not right. Yeah, they're 5th on offense. All right. A2 and then we've got A2 and Strategist Oldoa, so another Strategist Oldoa here on offense. Told you this was a good partner. Then again, Strategist Oldoa once more and Ashen Mont. So just Strategist Oldoa seems to be the key in a lot of ways to getting this guy's offense to work, surprisingly. I mean, really seeing it like this, I'm not sure she shouldn't be top tier. Let me just change my evaluation just a little bit here. Okay. And then Summer Glaciella, One Wing Sephiroth. This was number 5 on offense. But what really cemented it as the number 1 team is that it also, unlike a lot of the offense teams, performed really well on defense. So number 1 for defense is Howlet and Summer Glaciella. This is the full Red Mage team. It is... And again, when you look at like the full Red Mage cards, when you look at there's a variety of ways you could go with this. You have the most real variety in the game, I think, which can make this team slightly unpredictable, but also it leans really heavily defensive regardless of how you play it. There are some offensive options for magic teams that can really maximize Howlet and Gilgamesh's damage, and there are some good magic options here, but there's a lot of resistances really within the Red Mage from what I remember. Next, we're getting Summer Glaciella, One Wing Sephiroth. This is the strongest team here. I think it's the one that I would most say to run on offense and defense. Ashen Mont, One Wing Sephiroth came in 3rd. Strategist Oldoa, One Wing Sephiroth, our number 1 team, came in 4th on defense. This is another one that I would recommend both ways. It is just a strong team all the way around. And really, like you can see, this is incredibly similar to the other team. You're trading out a synergy with Red Mage for a synergy with the Ice element, and both of these units provide a 40% physical mitigation aura, so I feel like that and Sephiroth tend to be pretty important with Gilgamesh. I didn't see any of it in the data because I think they're going through limited right now in JP. There wasn't a lot of super recent data. I basically just had an extra week to work with. It's the same week that I used to define Luciel. And even with that, like very few of the Luciel teams actually matched what Gilgamesh was doing. So if you're looking for maybe, I think this is more an indication that more people pulled for Gilgamesh than anything. Luciel seems really cool, but I think Gilgamesh definitely has the staying power and has proven himself more than she has by this data. But, you know. And then finally, Summer Glaciella, June the Spring Celestial, both have water synergy for themselves. There's some chaos species that can work for this. Yeah. And then going back into the data, so number one, based on offensive and defensive performance, Summer Glaciella, One Wing Sephiroth. This is the team that I recommend. This is the team that's being used the most in JP at this point, even though there were quite a few, or there were only a few people using it really early on. Howlet and Summer Glaciella has been consistently kind of absurd on defense. It averaged 6 defends in part of the data, and what happens if I turn that into 3? Just still pretty damn high, right? So even if that was a fluke, they're still performing very well. But I think this still being in the data is definitely cementing them at #1 defense. You know, maybe if my data set didn't include this one, they would be doing a little bit worse. But they are definitely underused. 9th and 10th place, maybe 8th, 9th, and 10th place on this list. We're pretty far back in the ranks. Then the least used, but also really good team, Force of Habit, Strategist Uldoa, One Wing Sephiroth. This was the first on offense, 4th on defense, the second and only of the 2 teams that I would really recommend running on both offense and defense. I think there are better options for both, in both, out of this data. However, I think that both of these are good enough to run on both. Then in 4th place, 5th most used, Ashenmont, One Wing Sephiroth. This team has been popular. It does really well in defense. 5th place, we have Ashenmont and Luciel. This is one of the new teams. It did really well on offense, so this can be a strong offensive team. Strategist Uldoa, Ashenmont. This is the Ashen Synergy combo team. 4th on offense, so it's doing well there. A2 and Strategist Uldoa. This is a full ice team. 3rd on offense. Usually we see a mono elemental variant of each character within the high offensive numbers. These tend to do really well for offense because they tend to be really easy to peak the power on in terms of vision cards. Summer Glaciella, June the Spring Celestial. This is the water combo with ice, 5th on defense. This could also be a pretty good bait team if you are trying to draw in with Gilgamesh people who are targeting ice teams and trying to just burn through them with fire. This could do really well there. So this is probably a bait team, and I think it works really well in defense. This is one I would definitely recommend using as well, at least for defense. And then Sephiroth Luciel, that combo is super highly used. I think this might have been the most common Luciel team, and it is also one of the more common Gilgamesh teams. It is the 2nd most used team, but is 9th in the data. This is, again, Luciel isn't doing amazing as a combo with Gilgamesh specifically, and she's also not super used, but she also didn't do particularly well in helping Gilgamesh within this data compared to other units, even though she definitely ranks as a newer character at the very least. And then finally, 10th place and 6th most used was A2 and June, the Spring Celestial, because of course it's really hard to get these guys out of the meta. There's already a synergy here with A2. A2 has a synergy with both units on this team, so there are some ways to build her up to be kind of the core of the team in a really strong way. So this has been your update on team performance with Gilgamesh, Breaker of the Scourge. That's what we've decided to call him on the global side, it seems. So if you appreciated this, please remember the free-to-play option for YouTube is to like and subscribe. You can also click that link in the description to donate to the channel. Also, other options, you could buy my books. There's several of them listed. I've shouted them out in other credit sequences, so I'm sure you already know things about them. This is just your reminder that you wanted to check those out, didn't you? Yeah, you should. Also, ways to donate to the channel if you would like to do that, or maybe I've already said that, but also ways to connect to other points in the constellation of stars that is the Jackie Fox Media universe out there, including my main channel and a podcast if you just want an audio version to chill with. And with all of that being said, I'll see you in the next one.